Heavy security in place in Northern Ireland for tomorrow's opening of the two-day G8 summit. The conference will take place at a secluded hotel outside Belfast, but most of the protesting is expected to happen inside the city. About 3,600 extra police have been brought in to reinforce the city's security force. Parts of Belfast have been sealed off, and armored police vehicles are patrolling the streets. And Prime Minister Harper is in Dublin on his way to the G8 summit. Senior correspondent Terry Malewski is there and says Canada's hope for a free trade deal with the EU is getting mired in details.
Well, Prime Minister Harper said going into this trip that the dominant item on his agenda anyway would be his drive to finally complete a free trade agreement between Canada and Europe. It's still not happening, although he continues to plug away at that task on his trip here to Ireland. He's even found time for some public relations, visiting a Guinness brewery, and despite being a notorious non-drinker, Mr. Harper even managed to swallow a little of the heady brew. However, the free trade agreement remains elusive. The issue in Ireland, as it was in France, remains Canada's demands for greatly enhanced access for duty-free exports of Canadian beef into the European Union. And there remain a host of other obstacles as well, such as patent protection in pharmaceuticals, the issue of government procurement of major infrastructure projects such as transit, and so on. Now, with that basically sidelined for the time being, the focus now shifts to the G8 summit Monday and Tuesday in Northern Ireland, which has in effect been hijacked by one issue: Syria. The British host, Prime Minister David Cameron, had wanted the summit to focus on his issues of tax evasion, transparency in international commerce and the like. However, Syria has hijacked the summit effectively, and particularly because the Americans have now decided that the Assad regime has indeed been using chemical weapons against the rebels, and now it's decided, the U.S. that is, to supply small arms to the rebels. Mr. Harper, for his part, as recently as last Wednesday in his remarks to the British Parliament, opposed supplying arms to the rebels, saying that the sectarian and extremist nature of the opposition forces cannot simply be wished away, as he put it. However, the Americans have simply have moved off the sidelines, so Mr. Harper may have to adjust his position on that, but of course he's not the problem. The Russians are the problem. The Russian foreign minister saying on Friday that the Americans simply have no proof of their claim that the Assad regime is using chemical weapons, and the Russians continue to stand against sanctions on their Syrian allies. So in this environment, it has to be said that expectations for the G8 summit, as for Mr. Harper's European trip, are modest. Terry Malewski, CBC News, Dublin.